Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Susan. I think the only thing that I would add is to support what they have already so eloquently said by telling you about a time when someone providing care for me helped me to continue my calling to the ministry when the path to that ministry was being threatened. When I was 5 years old, I told my mom I was going to be a minister when I grew up. I used to record sermons on this giant cassette tape recorder my parents had given me. If you don't remember cassette tape recorders, you can probably see one in the Smithsonian now. So anyway, this has kind of been a lifelong calling for me, but we were Southern Baptist. And so by the time I was about 12 years old, I rejected that religion and its tenets, but in doing so, I kind of left behind all faith and all spirituality for many years, and so that left me with no context within which to think about a calling to religious ministry. Although I've since realized that as an adult, I was almost always working at a nonprofit agency providing care. I was always involved in social justice activism and organizing, and I started a theater group, but a theater group that always did theater of the oppressed, theater with a message, so I guess that was my way of preaching. And all of that together was kind of putting together a secular ministry of sorts. So when I found this church and Unitarian Universalism, that calling to a faith-based ministry came rushing back. Well, fast forward a few years after that to late summer of 2013, I was about to enter my final year of seminary to fulfill that lifelong calling, and I was about to enter the second year of a part-time ministerial internship at a local UU church. This is required to become a UU minister. And my spouse, Wayne, suffered a relapse of a condition called polymyositis, which is scary. And his insurance company was battling paying for the treatments he needed to get better. But I didn't ask for help. I just tried to push right through it and keep going. And the congregation where I was doing that ministerial internship was informed that their prior senior minister had lost her status as a UU minister after admitting to sexual misconduct within that congregation. By the way, I'm not revealing any confidences this morning. The church and our Unitarian Universalist Association have made all of this public in the interest of transparency. Well, needless to say, this upset people in the church. They were hurt. They were anxious, and as we humans do when we're hurting, some of them acted out. Unfortunately, my supervisor for the internship, the interim minister at that church, kind of bought into some of the conflict that was going on and treated congregants in a way that, in my opinion, was inappropriate of a minister, which made the conflict get even bigger. That minister has also now lost her status as a UU minister. So, needless to say, my internship was iffy at best, and folks in the church were coming to me to be their pastoral presence, so that was making doing the internship part-time really, really difficult. And then a couple of weeks later, I was talking with my mom on the phone, and she told me that my stepfather, Ty, who I had known since I was about 12, had been told he had congestive heart failure and a number of other health conditions, and that he wasn't going to live much longer. And I still didn't reach out for support. I just kept trying to push through and take care of everyone else. But then a few days later, I was trying to read one of the assigned texts for seminary, and I could hear the words from the page in my head, but I couldn't assign any meaning to those words. So finally, I reached out. I called the president of my seminary, who was a minister himself, and when I talked to him, I told him what was going on, and I said, I don't know if I can get the reading and the classwork done, and I don't know what's going to happen with my internship. And he grew very quiet, and he said, we'll help you get through the classwork, and we will find you an internship, even if it doesn't happen on the timeline that you were imagining. But then he invited me to put all of that aside and to talk about what I was feeling, what was going on with me. And by doing that, he opened up this space, this caring presence, even over the phone, and I was able to talk about what I was feeling and how very scared I was. And because he did that, I was able to keep doing that and keep reaching out for help, and I finished seminary and I graduated. And I was able to finish the internship, barely. And my spouse, Wayne, got the treatments he needed, and the condition went into remission. My stepdad, Ty, lived a lot longer than they had predicted, and he was able to be here when this church ordained me into the ministry in February of 2015. We lost him right after that, though. So I guess what I want to add, what I want to say to you this morning is don't do what I did. Don't try to push through. You don't have to endure life's storms all by yourself. You have this faith. You have this religious community. And as Unitarian Universalists, a faith without creed, we are rooted deeply in relationship. And the way that we do relationship is through what's called a covenant, a set of sacred promises we make to one another about how we will be together in the ways of love. And to do that, to fulfill those promises, we have to care for one another. And to care for one another, we have to be open to allowing others to care for us and to reach out, as you've heard, for that care sometimes. So this morning, as we think about building an ever-increasing culture of caring here in this church, I want to invite you into a ritual of caring. I'm going to invite you to rise in body or spirit. Please rise. Take a look at those around you. You can turn around if you want to. Let's include that camera up on the wall back there so we include those joining us over the live stream. And as we feel one another's presence, as we look into one another's eyes, please repeat after me. I will care for you. We will care for one another. Okay, now let's do the hard part. Will you please care for me? Will you all please care for me? Great. Now let's bring it into covenant. I will be with you in the ways of love. I will be with you. I am with you. My friends, this is Unitarian Universalist religion. Amen.